The weather is perfect today. It's about 10 degrees and I'm just going to go for a walk around this village. Now this village, there's a bit of everything here. There's a bit of kind of allotments, just garden settlements. Then there's some kind of old Russian dacha style houses, and then there's some bigger ones as well. So I thought I'd go for a little bit of a walk and talk about the 21 things that I wish I knew before I came to Russia. And I've had a really good think about this because some of them are really important. And so they're not going to be in any particular order, they're just going to be in the order that I wrote them down. And we'll start with the first one. And the first one is something you really need to know. And that is that it can be very difficult to find an apartment that you're happy with the place, you're happy with the price, and also you're able to register at. Now I've had a discussion this week with people that work in real estate, and they themselves were not even aware about the registration process. And so we've had some discussions with them, and I'm setting up a service to help people to find houses where they can register at, because this is a really big problem here in Russia. Foreigners, you're going to come here, you're going to go to a hotel for a couple of nights, and then you're going to go and try and find somewhere to live. And you can find loads of houses or apartments that you're going to be happy with, but the chances are the people are not going to want to register you, because registration is something that's required in Russia for all citizens. But if somebody registers you, and that's basically registering you with the immigration department to show that you're officially residing at that property, then they'll have to pay tax. And of course, they don't want to pay tax. We've got a load of chickens down here just doing their thing. The next point is there are many job opportunities in Russia. You don't just have to come here and work as a teacher or as a YouTuber. There's loads of international companies who are looking to employ people who are skilled, some sort of experience that they can bring to the Russian branch of that organization. If you go to the job site hh.ru, you can register your CV and apply for jobs in Russia. I like how this house owner has used this piece of wood, but it's a sign for a notary. So the next one, well, it might be obvious, but most Russian apartment owners are not going to allow you to have a pet. The way to get around this is to get to the stage where you're ready to sign the contract with them, and then just before you sign the contract say everything's amazing, you agree with everything, but just to let you know, you've got a cat. The chances are they're not going to want to lose you as a client after they've already thought that they found their ideal candidate to live at the house. The haves and the have-nots living side by side, literally. In Russia, Google has been demonetized, and so you can have a YouTube channel, but if you want to register that AdSense account that connects to your YouTube channel, enabling you to earn money, you cannot receive that money at a Russian bank, because Google have decided to leave Russia. And so that's why so many Russian YouTubers decided to leave Russia in 2022. The famous people like Natasha's Adventures or the No FAKRZ, yeah, I'm not going to say the word, channel, because obviously they need to keep receiving their payments from their YouTube channels. They've got successful YouTube channels and they can't receive the payments in Russia, so they've moved to other countries where they can register their business and keep receiving money. And so you can have a YouTube channel in Russia, but you cannot receive payments in Russia. You can't pay the tax for your YouTube channel in Russia. But you can register in another country, like other famous channels like Countryside Acres, so you can still receive your money like they do from YouTube, just you won't receive it to your Russian bank. What do they keep in the cage, guys? Let me know. Foreign driving licenses are only permitted to be used in Russia during the visa stage or the temporary residency stage. Once you get to permanent residency or citizenship, you're going to need to get a Russian driving license. Now, currently, only for a few more days, the ability exists to swap your driving license for a Russian one. And that only applies to people who are on full-time permanent residency or have citizenship. So the chances are when your temporary residency expires and you need to, move on to full-time permanent residency or citizenship, you're going to have to take a Russian driving exam, pass the test to get a license. Now, the driving rules are changing all the time, and a lot depends, oh, we've got a chicken there, a lot depends on whether your country is in the Vienna Traffic Convention Treaty, I think it's called. If your country is in that, then it's easier to exchange your license or to drive in Russia. If you're not in that, like the US are not in it, and I think Australia are not in it, then it's more difficult. For example, not long ago I changed my foreign license to a Russian one, but I'm lucky because I was from the UK and the UK took part in that treaty. But people from the US, well, they couldn't simply exchange their driving license because the US isn't involved in the treaty. They would have to take the test. I wonder which, I think that's the side for the car and that's the side for walking, though there's not much difference, to be fair. Perhaps somebody had a little accident here. Remember what I told you about building materials being dumped? I'm guessing this has come from the road because it was all concrete, I think, before. We've had a new road put in here and this is the remains of the old one. And again, like something from a very scary movie. Another thing you need to be aware of is you cannot work with your license, with your foreign driving license. If you have a foreign driving license and you want to work as a long distance lorry driver or a taxi driver or use your tractor on the farm or something like that, you cannot do it with your foreign license. You must have a Russian driving license to do that. So just be aware, if you're planning to come to Russia and perhaps be a farmer, you can't take part in any commercial activity with your foreign license. You must have a Russian one to do that. I think a lot of people break the rules because, you can see a lot of people on YouTube now that have farms and drive tractors, but they've definitely not got a Russian license. This looks like some sort of dangerous bridge from an Indiana Jones film, but it's not. It's actually the thing to work on a car, look, to get underneath it and work. The next point to know is that Russian healthcare is free. It is free. If you come here and you have temporary residency up to permanent to citizenship, Russian healthcare is free. Now, there might be some costs involved here or there. Also, I've heard people talk about the quality of medicine, and if you need some sort of really difficult operation, then you can perhaps pay to get different medicines. That isn't obviously official, that's just word of mouth, things that people have said to me. You often get people saying they need kind of urgent operations and asking for money to fund the operation. So even though healthcare is free, there might be some hidden costs involved. But generally, even if you go to a private doctor's or a private polyclinic, the prices are going to be, minuscule compared to the US, for example. I don't know. This one's interesting. This is what I mean again about building materials. So the next point is if you're coming from a hot country, and I see this all the time, and I was guilty of this even though I didn't come from a hot country, it's that when you come to Russia, you don't have the adequate clothing for winter. And what happens is when you go outside on the street, you're going to have people telling you, especially grandmas, they're going to say to you, you're not wearing the appropriate clothes. Where's your hat? Where are your gloves? And if you've seen even foreign YouTubers in the comments, the Russians are right, where's your hat? Where's your gloves? Why aren't you wearing the appropriate footwear? I remember when Joseph Rose, the expat American, came to Russia and he was making his first few videos a couple of years ago, and he was wearing a really inappropriate jacket, and I kept saying to him, Joseph, get yourself a proper coat. Where's your hat? What's going on with your shoes, mate? It's kind of like a habit you pick up. So when you come to Russia and then you start wearing the appropriate clothing and footwear, you'll notice other foreigners and you'll tell them, what you're doing, make sure you're wearing appropriate footwear. Very blue. Look at the plant pots. They look like they've been prepared not long ago. Nice house. I love the masonry, the brickwork. Very nice. That house is cool over there. It's kind of interesting. Let's see if we can get a bit nearer. The next point is with regards to tap water. Now, I've talked about this recently in a few of my videos, and it's an interesting one, but generally and typically Russian people do not drink from the tap. They don't just go and get a cup, turn on the tap and fill it up and drink. In fact, I don't know anyone that does that. Although when I said that in the last video and the video before, the Russians in the comments all decided that they do drink from the tap, and I'll talk about that in the next point. We've got some very Soviet gates here. As a non-Russian, you cannot criticize anything about Russia, or Russian people will want to argue with you about the thing you criticize. They'll either want to compare it with something back home in your country. So let's say, for example, you say Russians don't drink tap water, then they'll say, well, the tap water is better than it is in your country. Your country has rubbish tap water. I would never drink your tap water. Russia's tap water is 100 times better than your tap water. And so even though you're saying something that is true, Russian people will not accept your criticism of that thing. And so just be aware of that. It doesn't matter if you're saying something that's true or not. Russian people will not accept that criticism. They'll accept it if one of the Russian people criticize it and they say something that's true. But if you say something, even if it's true, it doesn't matter. Russian people will not allow you to criticize it. Russia is becoming a cashless society, and it's happened very, very fast. There's some people that obviously can't charge by card. They might ask you to transfer the money to their bank for them. If you go to a flower shop, or if you use a photographer or something like that, obviously they might not want to pay tax, and so they'll ask you if you can pay by cash. But typically everywhere in Russia now you can pay by card, apart from perhaps places where the internet doesn't work. And if you go to supermarkets, we have self-checkouts pretty much everywhere as well now. But one thing you need to be aware of, and I think most people know already, is that your foreign Visa or MasterCard will not work in Russia due to the lovely sanctions. Here we've got a sign that says, children, slow down, we don't want you to hit any cars. Russia has a zero alcohol policy when it comes to drink driving. You cannot drink anything and drive in Russia by the law. And if you do, the penalties could be huge. I don't know. The worst thing is that you kill someone, right? So I just wouldn't drink drive, and therefore, you know, that's not going to happen. Russia's roads are improving all the time. When I first got here 20 odd years ago, it was a different story. But now I have people come here that say they're better than in the UK. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, and I don't want you to judge it by the road that I'm on now. But Russia also has toll roads. And we've got a huge road, M12, which is going right across Russia at the moment. Literally, if I wanted to go to my friend Chris, the Plastic Russian's house, I'd go out of my driveway, turn right again, and then go straight. And then I'd get off the road at his village, and I'd be there at his house. So in one sense, I've got no excuse to not go and see him, apart from I'm lazy and it's like 1,500 kilometers for me to drive there. But also, when you go on these toll roads, how the payment system works is your number will be scanned, and then you'll be sent a payment through the driving app, traffic police app, or through Gosuslugi, which is the government portal. Not much going on in the village at the moment. A couple of adverts. And check out this house. We've got the Soviet flag up there. Wow. So these sheds here, they're either used as sheds, as banyas, or just places to store tools and wood. And then likewise, if you receive a speeding fine or a traffic fine, that will also go to the same apps, and so that you can just pay it immediately. The system is very quick and very easy in Russia, although the fines for driving violations have risen a lot in the last few months, and they're expected to continue to rise. So don't speed, don't break any laws, and you'll be fine. So if you're from the UK, this next one will excite you. Russia has high-speed trains that come on time. Go figure. Also, the cost of living in Russia compared to so many other countries is, well, the difference is huge. You're going to be able to get yourself on the housing ladder. You're going to have a much more comfortable life than you have unless you're a millionaire. And even if you're a millionaire in the UK or the US, your life isn't, you know, what it was when I was a kid and you dreamed of what a millionaire's lifestyle would be like. Quiet Street. So something that perhaps a lot of people now know about is, if you're from a NATO country, one of the unfriendly countries, then you can actually come to Russia, and upon arrival you can apply for permanent residency. It's being marketed under the name Shared Values Visa, and basically it's Russian temporary residency. They've removed the barriers to entry, so you can now apply for residency without knowing any Russian and without having to qualify for a place. But something that not many people know about is that it's pretty much free to apply. It's going to cost you altogether about $100 to do it. But most people aren't aware of that, because everyone says you need to use a lawyer if you want to apply for permanent residency. And the lawyers are going to charge you, well, the usual price is $1,500. And I know lots of foreigners that have used lawyers, and they say they're really glad that they used a lawyer because they couldn't have done it without the lawyer. But the thing is, and the thing that you're not told, is that whether you have a lawyer or not, you have to go and do all the things yourself. All of the documents you need to get, you need to go and do yourself anyway. Whether the lawyer's there to tell you this is the address to go to or not, you can find out all those addresses from other people. And there's only 2 or 3 places that you need to go to anyway. So it's not very deep or difficult to do. But it's up to you. So that's something that perhaps you should know before you come to Russia. Now, if you'd like a free phone call with me, I'm not going to charge you for that. samsrussianadventures.com, book the call, and I'll tell you what you need to do to apply for residency. And then if you decide to go for a lawyer or just do it on your own, that's up to you. Next, you need to be aware of the 2 documents you're going to need before coming to Russia if you're thinking of applying for residency here, and that is the police criminal record check to show that you don't have a criminal record, or if you do, to show that you're not a mass murderer or an international drugs dealer. And then the second document is a document to say you're either married or divorced if you're one of them, because those two documents you won't be able to get once you come here, and they're going to be more difficult for you to get, and it's going to be stressful, and the time's going to start running out when you're trying to apply for these documents from over here. Now you also need to get those documents notarized in the country you're coming from, so that they're official documents, they're stamped. The next 3 points are about Russian people. Russian people do not smile at strangers, and though you'll be tempted to smile at people, and you'll probably just do it naturally when you see someone, you'll smile, they might return the smile, but the likelihood is they won't, because Russian people do not smile at people they don't know. And so the theory is that Russians say that if you smile at a stranger, then there's something wrong with you because there's nothing to smile about. The next thing is that Russian people are very direct, and so you could buy yourself a new coat and you could say to your Russian friend, what do you think? And your Russian friend might just say, it's awful, don't wear it ever again. In the country you're from, the likelihood is the person might think that you shouldn't wear it ever again, but they'll probably say, yeah, it's not really my taste, or yeah, it looks good on you, go for it. Whereas in Russia, the people are very direct. Now that might be an extreme example, but Russians don't really put up with kind of faffing around, and sort of if you're just faffing around or doing something, taking your time doing it, Russian person might just say to you, what the hell's going on? What's going on? When you're ready, call me, I can't be bothered with this. They'll be direct. And so they don't like to be messing around with stuff. They're very serious. Check out this log house in here. Pretty cool, right? And then the last point is, don't expect common courtesy from Russians. I mean, for example, if you go through a door and you hold the door, the chances are the Russian person will not say thank you. And this was explained to me by a Russian person, and I don't know if I agree with him or not, okay? So he said, why should we thank you for holding the door? You don't do it to be thanked, you do it just to be courteous. If you're doing it to be thanked, then you're doing it incorrectly. Whereas I kind of understand what he's saying. You don't hold the door so you can be thanked, but at the same time, you hold the door, the person should be courteous and say, thank you for holding it, right? So it's kind of 50-50. What do you think about that? We've got a football fan. If you're not Russian, do you know what team this is? Transferring money to and from Russia can be very difficult. Some countries have the ability to use different apps to transfer money. But if you want to learn how Russians and non-Russians are transferring money back and forth, then join my Telegram chat group, and there's people in there that are transferring money a lot, and they can tell you how they're doing it. But beware of some sharks. There's a few sharks out there that are doing the transferring service, and they're charging a fortune. If you're coming to Russia as a student, then the first thing you need to do if you're going to apply for a course at university is spend 1 year doing a proprietary course where you learn Russian, and because your degree course, your diploma course, is going to be in Russian, and so it's like an intense Russian language course for 1 year with all the other students that are from other countries that are preparing to take a degree or diploma course in Russia. Now this is also a great course just to take on its own if you want to do a year at a Russian university along with all the other foreign students that are going to be eventually going on to study degree courses. This is really good for your Russian. If you do 1 year at a Russian university, your Russian will be amazing. Also, if you're here as a student, then you can actually work in Russia. So that's a good thing too. So while you're studying, you can work also. And then also finally, the thing you need to know about a Russian degree course and how it differs to a degree course in other countries is that the first, I think it's 2 or 3 years on your degree course, you'll study a wide range of subjects from science, mathematics and all other things like that. It's only your final year or 2 years that when you'll specialise in your actual subject that you're studying at university, right? This is a nice house, isn't it? Finally, if you're thinking of applying for a residency in Russia, then there's one thing you need to be aware of, and that is that each year you're going to need to make a declaration of your income that you've earned inside of Russia to prove that you're looking after yourself in Russia. One of the mistakes that foreigners make is they think that they can just show their bank balance from the UK or prove that they've got money with them from the country they came from. That isn't applicable. You've got to prove that you earned that money in Russia. And so there's ways to get around that. If you want to join my Telegram chat group, I'll tell you how. Or if you want to have a free call with me at samsrussianadventures.com, I'll be happy to give you the information. And then the final thing, and it's getting a lot easier, but Russian bureaucracy can be very frustrating, very, very, very frustrating. And so it's just something that you're going to have to get used to. A lot of people died from this village, right? Lenin is a bit different on this statue, isn't he? I hope you enjoyed this video and the points I made were beneficial to you. I'm back at the church, which means I'm back at the car, which means I'm near to the shop. So I can go and grab myself a drink, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.